What if I told you the biggest lie in modern politics is Vladimir Putin's true wealth? Not billions, not hundreds of billions, something so massive, so hidden, so untouchable, that every number you've ever heard is a distraction. Because behind the headlines lies a financial empire woven through oligarchs, secret accounts, offshore shadows, and an entire nation's resources controlled by one man whose name almost never appears on paper. If the world thinks Putin is worth 200 or 300 billion, that's just the safe estimate. The real number? No one dares to speak it out loud. So the question isn't, how rich is Putin? It's what terrifying truth is being covered up. Comment Putin if you're ready for the real story. Like and subscribe, because next we uncover how his family quietly built the foundation of this hidden empire. And it's darker than anyone imagines. And if the questions surrounding Putin's wealth only barely scratch the surface, then the origins of his power reach far deeper, into a family history shaped by endurance, discipline, and a centuries-long proximity to the structure of Russian authority. Putin's story does not begin with influence or privilege. It begins with peasants living under the vast weight of Imperial Russia. Yet even in these early chapters, not everything was ordinary. In the late 1600s, one of Putin's earliest recorded ancestors, Yakov Nikon, served Ivan Nikita Romanov, the uncle of Tsar Michael Fedorovich. A modest role, yes, but remarkable enough to link the family to a lineage that stood close to the center of power. Across the centuries, through wars, upheavals, and shifting empires, the family remained rooted in the same region, quietly surviving, quietly observing. That endurance alone is staggering. By the 19th century, Spiridon Putin, Vladimir Putin's grandfather, worked as a cook for high-ranking Soviet officials. It was a position that required trust, discretion, and absolute discipline. These were the very qualities that would later shape his grandson's worldview. Spiridon never held political authority, but he lived near those who did. Proximity to power leaves an imprint. Putin's father returned from World War II with scars of survival, raising his family in conditions far from comfortable. Young Vladimir grew up in a communal apartment, crowded, harsh, and unforgiving. But such an environment often produces something rare: resilience, a temperament sharpened by hardship, an early understanding that real strength lies in structure, order, and the ability to endure. This is the part many overlook. Putin's rise did not emerge from sudden opportunity. It grew from a lineage familiar with loyalty, discipline, and the quiet gravity of power. And when he stepped into the KGB, an institution built on secrecy and precision, those inherited traits transformed into something even more formidable. And if Putin's ancestral journey from peasant struggle to the machinery of state power already feels extraordinary, then what happened inside his private life is even more astonishing. Because while his public ascent was visible, a steady climb shaped by discipline, loyalty, and survival, his family life became something entirely different, a world deliberately kept in the shadows. In 1983, when Vladimir Putin married Lyudmila Shkrebneva, there was no sign the quiet couple would one day live under the weight of global attention. Their early years were ordinary, almost gentle, but fate had already chosen a different path. With the birth of their daughters, Maria and Katerina, something shifted. It was as if Putin sensed what was coming, long before the world did. As his career sharpened, the walls around his family closed in. The girls vanished from public schools, re-emerging under new identities. They lived behind layers of security, invisible to cameras, protected from every eye except those sworn to secrecy. This wasn't the life of a political family. It was the life of a man moving toward a destiny few could comprehend at the time. There is something almost eerie, almost cinematic about the contrast. While Russia was being reshaped by forces of power, a quiet household remained hidden, untouched, suspended in a private universe. It feels less like coincidence and more like preparation. Like Putin's family had been moved off the public chessboard so he could take his place at the center. A man rising from communal poverty should have faded into the background. Instead, he stepped into a future written in shadows. But as his influence grew, so did the distance between his public power and private world. And what happened next reshaped everything. And that distance, the one that quietly grew between Putin's public world and his private home, eventually became impossible to ignore. It didn't explode. It didn't break dramatically. It simply faded, like a light slowly dimming in a long, silent corridor. When Putin and Lyudmila announced their divorce in 2013, the world saw two calm faces, but behind that composure was a sadness you could almost feel. A marriage lived mostly in the shadows ended in the same place it had existed, quietly, without noise, without room for vulnerability. The moment felt less like a political statement, and more like two people finally acknowledging a life they were never fully allowed to share. Lyudmila's disappearance from the public eye was almost immediate. No interviews, no explanations, just a soft, sudden vanishing, like someone walking out of frame and never returning. And with it, a strange ache lingered, reminding us how heavy the shadow of power can be on those who never asked for it. For their daughters, Maria and Katerina, that shadow was even darker. Raised under false names, escorted by security, protected from the world, and yet imprisoned by that same protection. Imagine growing up knowing you can never be seen, not truly, because your father's destiny has already chosen anonymity for you. As adults, they built their own paths, but always quietly, always carefully, like footsteps on soft snow, leaving only the faintest trace. Their romances, their friendships, even their addresses became whispers rather than facts. A family living beside power, yet never allowed to stand in its light. Which part of their hidden life surprised you the most? Comment below and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this unfolding story. And if the Putin family lived in the shadows, then Katerina was the one daughter whose story accidentally slipped into the light. And what that light exposed was far more explosive than anyone imagined. Her 2013 wedding didn't just look extravagant. It looked orchestrated, as if a royal ceremony had been staged in complete secrecy. The Agora resort was sealed off like a classified zone. Guests arrived through checkpoints. The air shimmered with laser shows, ice performances, and a scale of luxury that felt less like a celebration and more like a message. A message about wealth, access, and a world almost no one ever gets close enough to witness. But the real shock came 5 years later. When the marriage ended in 2018, a single set of documents sent ripples through every intelligence desk watching the Kremlin. A fortune nearing $2 billion. Not guesswork, not rumors. A verified asset trail, quiet, complex, and eye-opening. And suddenly, a new question emerged in whispers. Was this wealth hers, or was she a vault for something far larger? Then came the ballet dancer, the rumored daughter, the secret flights, the European properties that appeared and disappeared without explanation. Katerina's life wasn't glamorous. It was encrypted. And the deeper investigators looked, the more it felt like her story wasn't just personal. It was a clue. And once investigators realized that Katerina's life looked less like a love story and more like an encrypted financial map, something extraordinary happened. The world finally stepped in. Not quietly, not cautiously, but with a force that stunned even geopolitical experts. In 2022, a coalition of nations that rarely stand on the same side suddenly aligned with chilling precision. The US, the UK, the EU, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, every major power pointed toward the same hidden network. And for the first time ever, two women who had spent their entire lives avoiding the spotlight were pushed straight into it. Maria and Katerina weren't accused of crimes. They weren't public figures. They weren't even allowed normal childhoods. Yet their names appeared on sanction lists reserved for the world's most influential operators. Accounts frozen, estates seized, financial access cut instantly. It wasn't just shocking, it was symbolic. A global message that the true target might not be the daughters themselves, but the fortune behind them. And when sanctions reached beyond the sisters, hitting their husbands, their companies, their offshore links, the question became impossible to ignore. What did the world think the Putin family was hiding? And why did it take this long for anyone to confront it? If this move was just the first crack in the armor, what lies beneath is on an entirely different scale. Comment your theory below, hit subscribe, and stay for the next chapter, where the real magnitude of this hidden empire begins to surface. But if global sanctions were the world's first attempt to uncover what lies behind this hidden empire, then what happened to those who tried to expose it from the inside is even more unsettling, because every empire has its secrets, but only a few have a trail this chilling. Across years of political tension, journalists, defectors, and outspoken critics found themselves caught in a pattern too precise to ignore. And every time it happened, the same question echoed in whispers. Is this coincidence, or something far more deliberate? Anna Politkovskaya was one of the first voices brave enough to challenge the Kremlin's inner workings. She paid the price on her own doorstep. 5 men were convicted, but the mastermind behind the killing remains a ghost. The alleged payment? $150,000. A disturbing reminder of how cheaply the truth can be silenced. Then came Alexander Litvinenko, a former FSB agent, a man who spoke too openly, too directly. Poisoned in London with polonium-210, a radioactive substance so rare that its use felt like a signature, not an accident. His final words pointed to the one figure he believed responsible. These stories aren't rumors. They're documented, investigated, repeated in reports that shake even seasoned analysts. And yet, each case leads to a darker question. If these are the stories we know, what about the ones we don't? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe, because the next chapter reveals the most controversial symbol of Putin's hidden world yet. If the mysterious deaths of Putin's critics revealed the danger of speaking too loudly, then the next part of this story reveals something just as staggering: the unbelievable world built quietly around his power. Because behind every political headline is a reality few ever witness, a reality measured not in millions, but in monuments. It begins on a cliff above the Black Sea. A mansion so vast, so extravagant, that it feels closer to myth than architecture. Putin's palace, a $1.35 billion labyrinth of marble halls, secret tunnels, gold interiors, and private theaters. At 190,000 square feet, it's 39 times larger than Monaco. Just maintaining the estate requires 40 staff members and millions in annual costs. It isn't a home, it's a statement of power carved into stone. But the sea holds its own secrets. Putin's yacht fleet is a floating kingdom, the Olympia, gifted by Roman Abramovich, the graceful, engineered like a naval jewel, and the crown jewel, the superyacht Rossiya, refurbished at a jaw-dropping $1.5 billion. Multiple pools, helipads, bulletproof glass, a fortress gliding across the water. His luxury continues on the roads, the $700,000 Oris Senat limousine, designed not just for comfort but survival. Armored plating, sealed cabin, protection against biological threats. And the Mercedes Pullman Guard, another armored icon chosen for global events. On his wrist, timepieces worth more than most homes. The A. Langensohn pour le Mérite alone costs $500,000, one of only 51 ever made. A collection reportedly worth 6 times his official salary. And in the air, the empire grows even larger. The IL-96-300 PU, Putin's $70 million flying fortress, equipped with anti-missile systems, encrypted communications, and decoy jets deployed to confuse threats. 1 aircraft out of a fleet of 58. Each piece, palace, yacht, car, watch, aircraft, is more than luxury. It's a glimpse into a world built to project control, invisibility, and absolute dominance. Comment your thoughts below, and stay tuned because the next chapter enters the most secretive circle of all. Putin's invisible elite bodyguards. And when you step back and look at everything, from the palace carved into a cliff, to the billion-dollar yachts drifting like silent fortresses, to the armored cars, rare watches, an entire fleet of presidential aircraft, you begin to see a pattern. Putin's world isn't just wealthy, it's engineered, designed, protected, hidden behind layers of secrecy that most people will never fully understand. This isn't the story of a politician. It's the story of a man who built an empire where power flows through shadows and fortune exists in places numbers can't measure. And the truth is, we've only touched the surface. There are still pieces missing: networks, alliances, operations, and rumors that never reach the headlines. If you want those secrets unlocked, tell me in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next chapter dives even deeper into the world you were never meant to see. Thank you for watching.